Greetings, comrades, and hello, everyone. I'm Quint866. Welcome to a new series I'm doing. I'm going to be reviewing animes. This series I'll call the Anime Memories Retrospective, where I'll go back, watch animes I used to watch, or animes I haven't quite finished, and I'll finish them up and then review them. So this is a very new thing for my channel. So these reviews may not be the most high quality, but I'm going to try and do it just for the sake of trying something new on my channel. Yeah, we're going to be reviewing animes, starting with Wild Arms Twilight Venom, which is an adaptation of the video game series Wild Arms. Let's waste no time and get right into it then. Starting with episode 1. I mean, where else would we start? So, like most animes, we have an opening sequence, or intro song, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Okay, I want to make it very clear that I usually skip these, especially if the anime is over like 30 episodes long. The few openings I genuinely like and usually watch every time are the Devil May Cry anime opening, since the music is amazing, the Boba Bo Bo Boba Bo opening, since it looks good and is literally 57 seconds, Gun X Sword, since it's the perfect anime, and Trigun because all the shots are cool in the opening. I was a little worried going into this intro since, as I alluded earlier, most animes I skip these. As much as I love Hunter x Hunter, I just can't watch it every single time for the 148 episodes. And Dragon Ball, don't get me started. Thankfully, this opening is a decent one, so I'm willing to sit through it 80% of the time. Sorry. I know I just spent a whole paragraph talking about an opening, so let's get to the actual episode. A man named Dr. Keel Arnax is being held at the prison equivalent of Alcatraz in this world. Instead of being in an island in San Francisco or whatever, this Alcatraz is floating in the middle of a crater with magnetic rocks. While I find it stupid that the magnetic force would be just right to keep the island up at all times without tilting, I will say it is an interesting idea. Still, my physics teacher would have a lot of trouble explaining this. Dr. Arnax is being tortured by the warden, this midget dwarf guy. Heck, they even show the whip wounds on Dr. Arnax. Ew. The warden tells Dr. Arnax to cooperate with their cause, but of course he refuses. Dr. Arnax also tells the warden he prefers to be called Kiel rather than his full title, but the warden insists on being formal. Just as Kiel, and that's what I'm going to call Dr. Arnax from now on, is about to be hung, the warden decides to do the old fake out as he cuts the rope before Kiel is killed. It's clear the warden wants Kiel alive. Oh yeah, also upon rewatching this episode, for a quick reminder, I found out the warden's name is Kihano, but I'm just gonna call him the warden to avoid confusion. Okay, sorry. Back to the review. Can I just say I love Kiel's design? I love the eye guard, spiky hair, plus his eyebrows are just like mine, since they're bloody huge. Yes, I can relate to that. Hashtag eyebrows relatable squad. Anyways, the warden gets notified by the guards that 3 scoundrels intend on breaking into the prison. 3 females, to be exact. Now, according to the guard, they don't seem to be there to break out any prisoners. Okay, so why would they go to a prison then? I'll get into that in a minute, though, so let's cover who these 3 females are. We have Jerusha, the little pink rat thing. Yeah, it's pretty typical for animes to have a mascot, so no surprise there. We also have a girl named Mirabelle, who is a noble red, which is essentially this universe's equivalent of the vampires, and a sorceress named Loretta, who uses magic cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Knockoff. These 3 ladies break in, as I said earlier, to not get any prisoners out, but to steal something in the prison. Well, that's a new one. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty smart, albeit risky idea to hold valuables in a prison. Smart since thieves wouldn't be able to break in easily, but risky since jail is full of crooks as is. So card sorceress Loretta, noble red Maribel, and Pipu. I seriously cannot pronounce the name of Jerusha's race correctly, no matter how hard I try, run into Keel as the 2 bargain to help Keel escape if he gets them to the vault. Keel kind of reluctantly accepts as they go to the vault, not before being burned by one of Loretta's fire cards. Keel somehow gets the door open, as they all hype themselves as the treasure is worth 1 million Gala. Jerusha isn't too sure about this. I mean, it is in a prison. They open the vault only to see the body of a sleeping little boy. The boy still slumbers even as they open the door. So Kiel tries to slap him awake. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm actually not kidding about that one. It doesn't work at first, but then as he winds up for a bigger slap, kaboom! A big blast of energy comes surging from within the boy and kind of putting the room into a bit of disarray, putting it lightly. The gang all get behind some rocks as the boy approaches our main party. The naked boy with a white cloth around him asks, "Hey, where's my buddy at?" and frantically searches the room. Maribel, however, finds a strange gun off to the side as the boy tells Maribel it's not a toy and shouldn't be handled by a kid like her. Maribel, quizzically and understandably, doesn't get why this boy who is younger than her is treating her like a child when, again, she has the gun. The boy then turns to Loretta, our magic card sorceress, as, I'm not kidding here, he no joke tries to bang on her. Loretta, puzzled why this 10-year-old kid is trying to act all mature, has the reaction of just what you'd expect. Kiel then asks, "Okay, kid, what's your name?" And the boy says, his name is Cheyenne Rainstorm. Kiel simmers, saying, "That's impossible!" as the warden's guards storm the vault, forcing the party to hide behind rocks again. The warden demands the group surrender in 3 minutes, or else, kaboom! Cheyenne grabs his gun from Maribel in an attempt to retaliate, but Kiel snags him down, telling him not to be stupid. Cheyenne's like, "I was gonna be so cool, though!" Maribel then takes a finger to his bloody scratch and tastes it, and here is where she's revealed to be a descendant of the vampires, as she's all like, "It's delicious!" Cheyenne hates this and claims he's a 25-year-old legendary gunslinger when clearly he isn't. Kiel tries to fire the gun, but nothing comes out, strangely enough. Kiel tells him to stop interfering, because, he's a kid, and Cheyenne's like, "I'm not a kid!" And then everyone's like, "What?" And he's like, "I know it may not look like much, but I'm actually a 25-year-old legendary gunslinger." And then we get a sexual innuendo right here. Yep. Didn't take very long for this anime to start the fan service. Wait, what is this rated again? Whatever. Anyways, the reason why Kiel couldn't shoot Cheyenne's gun is because it is one of the legendary arms, special weapons that can only be fired by people with enough vitality factor. Think like Nen from Hunter x Hunter. Loretta finds a large object wrapped in white cloth as she assumes it's some type of valuable, as she puts it on her back for the time being. Kiel hands Cheyenne his gun back, telling him to shoot a vent. Cheyenne tells him it will be so easy to hit such a big target. So Cheyenne gets his magic gun working and fires at the vent, breaking it open just like that. So they go into the vent as Loretta used one of her magic cards to blind the guards, giving them enough time to get through. They nearly slide off the cliff into the crater below, but thankfully, Kiel grabbed onto a ledge and they all held onto him, as Mirabelle, since she's a vampire, can turn into a bat and fly up to hand him a rope from above. I'm surprised Kiel could hold on for that long, but he is pretty muscular, so I'll give him that credit. So as they climb up the rope, it is revealed that the warden has a gun to Mirabelle, and he asked her to hoist them up. Kinda weird, but okay. Then the warden, his new hostage, Mirabelle, goes into a cage as he opens a gate, unleashing the newest threat to the party. This creature called the Falcon Venom. Dr. Kiel Aranax mocks the warden, saying that this plan will kill all of them, including Cheyenne. But the warden tells him that the Falcon Vein is only interested in human flesh. Because that's super convenient to the plot. Oh well, it is what it is. So our magic card waifu gives Cheyenne the object wrapped in cloth she found earlier in the vault. Cheyenne unwraps this, and it's the other half to his arms. The two guns merge together, and he fires a large blast, blowing the Falcon Vein to bits. And then, the warden, now surprised that, his super big beast is dead, is all like, "No, Falcon Vein!" But Mirabelle uses this brief moment of hesitation to turn into bat form and slip away out of the cage. Of course, the warden tries to pursue her, but she tricks him by leading him off a cliff. Cheyenne approaches the cornered warden at the cliff, demanding to know where his body is, since he doesn't believe this childish body is his own. The warden says, "I don't know, blah blah blah, they didn't tell me," and something about a goddess as well. Cheyenne is angered by this, saying he doesn't care anything about a goddess, and he is a reincarnation of the evil race, people who could use the arms unlike most humans. The warden insists he doesn't know, but Cheyenne, of course, being the hero, plunges him into the cliff down the crater. Yeah, we got a literal child murderer on our hands. Of course, he didn't actually shoot him, but he still did push him. I mean, I guess the warden had it coming, so it is what it is. Now the group waits for their escape as they can finally relax and wait for their escape to come. And that's the end of episode 1, Sleeping Dirty. And for the first episode, it was alright. It's not a very standout first episode, and compared to other episodes in this particular series, it's pretty average. But I mean, I can't really blame the anime for that. I mean, first episodes in animes are especially hard to get right. I mean, first episodes, when comparing them, especially to later episodes in a series, tend to fall flat because they're the first episode. But, I mean, this episode isn't bad. It's passable, and that's all I can ask for at the end of the day. There are also a few interesting bits that I do like. For instance, the party. Rather than, "Oh, it must have been fate, we shall team up together, legendary heroes, blah 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 blah," the party more just bands together as kind of a ragtag group, since, I mean, Kyo wasn't too keen on joining Loretta, Maribel, and Jerusha when they first met. I mean, Loretta threw a fire card at him. And Cheyenne just woke up, and he has no clue who to trust, except he's got to get away from that warden, so might as well go with him. I like it that the group kind of reluctantly go together to increase their chances. I mean, it isn't really deeply went into the episode itself, it's just something I noticed examining it further when rewatching it for this review. So all in all, we have a passable first episode, and that's all I can ask for at the end of the day. I shouldn't expect the first episode to be top tier, since like I alluded to earlier, it's really hard to get a first episode right, especially comparing it to other episodes within the series. But with that said out of the way, let's see what episode 2 is like. Alrighty then, now on to the second episode, which alongside a lot of other episodes, will be a lot shorter than the first episode's synopsis. It's kind of the format for my reviews, actually. The first few episodes, or first episode itself, usually get the longest or second longest segment. The early middle is rather short, the late middle is maybe a bit longer, but still not that long, and the last few are usually just as long, if not a little less than the intro episodes. Also, going into this anime, I want to say there will be a lot of filler episodes. I mean, this isn't inherently a bad thing. I mean, Bobobo has the main story take a backseat multiple times to flesh out the filler episodes, and I love that anime. And Excel Saga is literally nothing but filler episodes, as there's no story, well, little story, in that anime, and I have nostalgia for that, so it can't be a big issue here, just as long as it's done right. Anyways, Keel and Cheyenne are on a train rocking their new outfits. Cheyenne wants to go to his hometown that, I'm sorry, I don't recall the name of, to see if any clues are left behind about him. Keel advises against it as the town is in ruin after a historical event called Twilight Venom decimated the town. Apparently, a meteor shower struck the Earth, which not only turned the buildings to dust, but broke the dam open and flooded it all. And these meteors had some weird power, as many more natural disasters occurred, one after the other, leaving the town and most of its residents in ruin. Cheyenne thinks this is stupid, but Kiel says it's true. I mean, he is a licensed scientist. And another passenger even pitches in her 2 cents as well. So Keel and Cheyenne go to the market to see if his body might be there, because apparently you can sell bodies in this universe. Cheyenne runs past a woman who notes how cute he is helping his dad, who she thinks is Kiel, but no, Kiel is not Cheyenne's father. I'm just gonna say that right out of the gate. Embarrassed by how the woman treated him like a kid, Cheyenne shoots his arms into the air, yelling, "He's gotta get his body back!" Suddenly, a small voice beckons him to a store, with Cheyenne giving them the whole "I'm not a kid" speech, but it wasn't the man at the store who called him, but rather this blue rat thing. It's a puppet, the same race as Jerusha. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. It offers to help the party if they buy him, with Kiel sort of reluctantly being roped into it. So great, we got another mascot now. It's fine. The blue rat guy is named Isaac. Anyways, Keel, Cheyenne, and now Isaac rent a room to stay for the night. They check out some weapons, with Keel actually buying an arm shooter with a hidden blade in it. You know, he does not look like a scientist. He's a big, beefy dude with an eye shield. But, I mean, hey, looks can be deceiving, I guess. Loretta, however, is on a bit of a side quest of her own. You see, she's trying to steal arms from a supposed arms collector. Now, that sounds pretty interesting, but how exactly is she gonna do that? Well, let's let the scene describe itself.
And how will you get that?
A little temptation, of course.
Well, he's handsome. I'm sure you're not complaining. But you know what guys like that can be like? They're more in love with themselves than you.
Oh, no. I am not safe from fan service anywhere. Although the way it plays out, I'll admit, is funny enough.
Take your time and have a look around.
Oh, but aren't you going to give me a personal tour?
I'd like to, but I'm afraid that I have some business that I have to attend.
Oh, couldn't it wait? After I heard about this place, I couldn't stop myself from coming to see everything you have. Can I see your collection? I adore big guns, but most of all, I want you.
I need to get some air.
Looks like your sexy little temptation number was a bust.
Why? What did I do wrong? This has never happened to me.
This cliche plan fails comedically, as it should, but admittedly, it did make me laugh, so I'll let this one slide. I don't say that a lot for fan service, but since it did make me laugh, I'll give it a free pass. However, it's revealed the arms collector makes counterfeit products, once Jerusha bites into it, revealing it's nothing more than a fake wooden carving. This sparks an idea in Loretta's mind as they hear the arms collector saying he'll pay anyone for genuine arms in his private booth. So she gets an idea. So now, with the adventure dudes, that's what I'm going to call Kiel, Cheyenne, and Isaac from now on, are greeted by the treasure gals, which is what I'll call Loretta, Maribel, and Jerusha from now on. They greet them at their apartment, or inn or whatever, with a bottle of champagne saying, "Hey, we offered you a drink!" And they even poke fun at Cheyenne, saying he's not old enough to drink, but Loretta gives him the yell, "Oh, it's fine for them to have a sip." So they all drink and party into the night. The scene then cuts back to the fake arms collector, as suddenly he's obtained a genuine arm. Now, with the power at his hands, he finally can achieve his dream. So he tries to fire it. As he slowly aims the gun, he pulls the trigger, only for nothing to happen. Yeah, this happened in episode 1 where Kiel tried to fire Cheyenne's gun and it did jack squat. It's clear that arms can't be used by some Joe Schmo. Anyways, now the merchant realizes he can't do anything, even though it's a genuine arm. So then the scene cuts back to Shine and Kiel, as they passed out, realizing Loretta, Maribel, and Jerusha snagged Cheyenne's gun, which he named Balter, by the way, but I'm just gonna call it the arms to avoid confusion. So as they see their trashed room, Cheyenne's like, "Those thieves! They stole my Baltor!" But surprisingly, though, the merchant comes into the room with Cheyenne's arm and apologizes, explaining he bought it from Loretta, who tried to sell him a genuine arm. He pleads Cheyenne to at least let him see the power, as he's interested in studying arms, as their power could really be beneficial for the people. And, I mean, I kind of don't blame him. I mean, this kind of technology that's been lost would be very beneficial to mankind now, so it makes sense. I also like it that it's not out of greed. He does genuinely seem like a good guy. So yes, he wants to know about the arms so he can study them for mankind. And that's honorable. So he pleads Cheyenne to at least fire the gun and let him see the power of it. He kind of goes over the top too, shaking him, but I mean, I guess it just shows how devoted he is to his cause. So Cheyenne's like, all right, I'll show you the power. And he's like, really? And then Cheyenne clonks him over the head with it. Well, at least he knows the physical power. Okay, once again, pretty witty, not gonna lie. So Cheyenne head out with Keel, his arm in hand, while the clonked out collector probably has to deal with the hospital bill, and the treasure gods celebrate from getting 1 million gala. And that's it for episode 2. Pretty small by comparison to episode 1, and I will say it's not a bad episode. I think it was a passable second episode, much like the episode 1 being a passable first episode. But I don't know, it was kind of boring. I mean, okay, I get there got to be some episodes to explain stuff like Twilight Venom. I mean, it is called Wild Arms Twilight Venom, so they got to explain it somewhere. And they introduce us to Isaac, another one of the same race as Jerusha, because I cannot pronounce that name for the love of God. And this episode also was an interesting twist on the stolen episode formula. Most of the time in the stolen episode formula, the party loses something or gets something taken. They find suspects, do detective work, track them down, ultimately find out who it is, and get the item back. But in this episode, they kind of go for a different twist, with the item being stolen by another party member, and the person who bought the item actually tries to give it back and amend for the wrongdoing. It's an interesting mix. It's not really that deeply went into, but something again I noticed when kind of reading this episode's script and whatnot. Though it was still a pretty dull episode, since I would have liked maybe some action, but again, not every episode needs action. I just kind of want to be more invested this early in. So let's hope episode 3 picks up things a little bit. Let's go on with that. Okay, so this name had me invested. I mean, dragons are cool, and putting them in a desert gives me graboid vibes, as well as the sandworm vibes from that one episode of Trigun, the one that had Zaze the Beast in it, that is. So I do have higher expectations going into this episode, and thankfully it delivers for the most part. The episode opens up with a woman out on a dock, waving to her fiancé Rayvon coming in on a boat. However, a dragon suddenly comes out from under the water. Rayvon vanishes in the splash. The woman gasps as her husband's whereabouts are unknown. Or are they? Cheyenne and Keel happen to pass through this village where the incident took place, as it's mostly submerged in sandy water. The mayor's daughter, named Michelle, has been locked in a tower out in the sandy water, and nobody can get to her. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Really, the dragon kidnaps the important girl story. I don't blame you, because that's what I was thinking too. The dragon killing everybody except for kidnapping the girl trope has been done to death. Thankfully, it's a little more complicated than that, which I'll get into in a minute. Shan and Kiel talk to the mayor, who wishes for them to kill the dragon and bring back his daughter so he can release the sandy water through the dam and loot the place. However, with the daughter being in a tower out in the middle of sandy water, he can't do that as he's concerned for her safety. The villagers are upset with the mayor as he plans to split the treasure to ease the angry mob. The mob is mad since the village believed the mayor is incompetent. Since it's his fault the village was flooded, he forbade his daughter, Michelle, from marrying her fiancé Rayvon, and has done little to help recover the village's well-being since the flood. Cheyenne goes out on a boat at the mayor's request to save Michelle, the mayor's daughter. However, Michelle tells Cheyenne as he approaches to go away or else the sand dragon will strike. Cheyenne says it's okay and he's here to save her and kill the dragon, but Michelle suddenly whistles, signaling the dragon to come closer to Cheyenne for some reason. The dragon attacks the boat as Cheyenne uses a harpoon to pin it to an old building. Kiel even uses a crane to try and immobilize the dragon. However, the dragon is just too much, as it damages the crane beyond further repair. The villagers had enough of this, seeing the plan fail, and decide they're going to handle things their own ways. They draw their weapons, tying the mayor and Kiel to stand down as they do things their way. Meanwhile, Loretta and Maribel are spying on Michelle from a distance, wondering why hasn't she tried to escape herself. The dragon seemingly doesn't harm her and doesn't seem to want to harm her. So they decide to go ahead and go down, see maybe if they can get some share of the treasure, if there is any. Cheyenne jumps from the boat to the tower and meets Michelle face to face. Cheyenne says he's here to save her, but Michelle tells him he's got it all wrong and she doesn't want to leave. Now why not? Wasn't this dragon keeping her here the whole time? Well, no, not according to Michelle. She believes the dragon has the spirit of Rayvon, her fiancé, and that spirit lives on through the dragon's body. Now this is an excellent twist. It would have been so good. But the key words there are would have been. You see, if the events occurred in the order I explained, then this would have been a fantastic episode. But sadly, it really dropped the ball here. It missed such a big chance. They reveal Michelle thinks Rayvon is the dragon as early as when Cheyenne gets on the boat at the mayor's request. Not only does this feel way too early to reveal it, but it also takes out what could have been a very good reveal. I mean, I would have never guessed that. Plus, it would have been way more compelling to have Cheyenne and Kiel take the mayor's job, get a boat, go out in the water, fire the harpoon, use the crane, have the crane break, Cheyenne goes to the tower himself, and then it's revealed why Michelle won't go out after the journey there. But sadly, the anime did not do this, and that's a pretty big disappointment. I mean, they just revealed it too early. But, I guess it's early on, but still, I really would have liked them to reveal it a bit later. But let's just add that to a notebook of stuff to remember for now. Well, the rest of the episode is good enough, though. The villagers go into the tower and grab Michelle and Cheyenne to drag them out back to the shore so they can clear the water, but Michelle calls for Rayvon to protect her, as the dragon, however, runs into a TNT trap the mad villagers set to hold it off for a moment. The villagers agree they should open the main gate as they hold Michelle, but she pleads no. The mob worried the dragon seeing them hold down and, restrain the resisting Michelle would probably get angry and attack them. So they think it's a good idea to throw her off the tower into the dam. No, is that, the dragon's gonna see you do that, so I don't get that, but okay. The guards also have Cheyenne, all restrained, but he breaks free and jumps in to rescue him. Kiel and the mayor are tied up, with Loretta and Maribel freeing them if they agree to split the treasure. Kiel's cool with it as she unties him. Cheyenne fires the grappling hook from earlier in an attempt to save Michelle from falling into the water, and he almost does, but the water current peels his grip as he sinks into the sandy water, only to be plunged into a ship where the treasure is. It's a gold statue of Michelle that was supposedly made by Rayvon. There's no time to focus on that though, as the submerged ship begins to drift towards the open floodgate, plunging it off the cliff. However, Rayvon the dragon uses his body to wedge between the gap and the gate of the ship, allowing Michelle and Cheyenne to leap to safety as the ship pounds into the dragon, mortally wounding him. He dies, apparently. I mean, I guess if you had a giant ship pressing into you, you'd probably get killed too. However, the group decide to let Michelle have the statue. Despite them wanting the treasure, they think it'd be better, and it would be the right thing to do to let Michelle have it as a keepsake of Rayvon. And that's episode 3. All in all, it was definitely better than episode 1 and 2, but oh man, it could have been so much better. Not only was revealing the dragon early such a big waste, but Kiel and pretty much everyone else don't play that big of a role in the story here. I mean, Jerusha and Isaac are revealed to be divorced, which is a good moment for them, but it doesn't really go into that much, or doesn't amount to anything at the end of the day. And while the mayor and the villagers do feel like good characters and motivation, they don't really wrap it up, as the episode doesn't even end with the mayor and Michelle making up, or the villagers, making peace. It just kind of ends with them, here, Michelle, have the statue, and they walk off. That's just, I don't know, I just feel like they could have made it more significant for the other characters. And like Maribel, Jerusha, and Loretta are just there for the treasure and to untie Kiel. That's it. Like I said, it's better than episode 1 and 2, but it could have done so much more. Well, let's see if episode 4 tops this. I'm gonna go on record and say this episode has a pretty interesting setup. The episode opens outside a library. Seems to be a very big database archive, since there's so many books. The library is set on fire as the whole place begins to ignite. The crew attempts to put it out, and they manage to do so, but there are a few casualties and a death. The chief comes out of a smoky room, claiming he started the fire, much to the horror of the assistant director. But why? The chief does not respond to the director, with the camera going out to reveal 4 cloaked figures watching the smoky scene from afar. Meanwhile, Cheyenne and Keel investigate the library if they can see any clues regarding Cheyenne's body. Maybe since it's a database, so it has a lot of archives, and there was a body there that died in the fire, maybe it's Cheyenne's. It's also pretty convenient that the library is helping volunteers to help rebuild, so it gives them a perfect excuse to go there. The assistant director is approached by a woman in a mask, who tells him she will reveal the location of the Faluna Bible if he pours this sacred oil onto one of the burned bodies that died in the fire. The assistant director is frazzled why this mysterious woman would know the location, since he's worked at the library for half a year and never found it. But the woman tells him her lips are sealed until he pours the oil on the burned body. Meanwhile, Shan and Keel get to the outside of the library, but are stopped as the front guard doesn't want to deal with the kid. The director comes out and thankfully allows Cheyenne to come in as he believes it'd be good for him. Cheyenne, in a similar fashion to Morgana from Persona 5, gives the "I'm not" line. Oh, how funny. In fact, I could draw a lot of parallels between Morgana and Cheyenne, but that's a topic for another time and isn't really relevant right now. As Shine and Kyo are allowed to help fix up the library, Shine wonders how it got burned, with Isaac saying he overheard some people saying the chief himself set the fire. The chief is being interrogated by the investigator and the assistant director, who has taken his place after his arrest. They've continually asked the chief why he did it, and his only response, other than some nonsensical explanation, is, "I was protecting the library." Meanwhile, the treasure gals sneak into the library at night to steal something known as the Faluna Bible. Loretta is sure it's worth something very valuable, as it's been hyped up in the Treasure Hunter magazine as one of the rarest books to date. Wait, so wouldn't this be theft then? Maribel is totally not buying that a Treasure Hunter magazine would hype up the value in selling the Faluna Bible, but Loretta insists as they climb through the window. Jerusha thinks this is nonsense, as if it was at a library, and if it was so valuable, why hasn't someone just rented it, pretend they lost it, and just never give it back? Loretta shows the article showing that it is the real deal and blah blah blah, she's all about her treasure. However, Maribel then asks, okay, where is the book within the library? Loretta realizes they're gonna have to dig through a lot of shelves. Ha! You didn't think that far now, did you, card sorceress? They even call it a pretty funny name, all things considered.
Infinite hell of the books.
I just want to say, that's a great name for a torture dungeon for people who don't like to read. Myself included. The gals run into the adventure dudes with the "what are you doing here" moments queuing right on time. They decide to team up as they sneak to the interrogation room to find more details about the Faluna Bible and the body that was burned, since Cheyenne thinks it might actually be his. So Maribel goes into bat form and uses her sleeping sonar sound thing to make the guards sleep so she can get past them and snag the keys. So they do that and open the doors to the chief's cells. The chief says he'll consider saying what the party wants to hear regarding the body Bible if they let him go. They bring the old man upstairs as he gasping, "The book's all out of order." Ah, the picky specific librarian trope. Oh. The chief asks the treasure gals and adventure dudes to order the shelves. The party is kind of forced to do this, as if they don't, they're not going to get what they want. Shine is having none of this, and I mean, who wouldn't? Stacking books is freaking boring. But the chief does this lecture saying books were being burned to control intelligence of the public, and the people who stood against those who burned the books claimed and fight for their right to read. The chief values books since they are the words of our ancestors and the documents of our history. And even though I'm not fond of reading, I will say this point does ring true and is a very believable reason as to why someone would value books as much as the chief does. So you know what? Good on you, Wild Arms. I'm a picky reader, but I can see that as a decent reason for the chief's motivations. The group finally finished the chief's demands, and he explains that the others speak the Faluna Bible as well, since it's very valuable, but he hid it from thieves and only allowed trusted people to see it at all. The group then stumbled to the director, who is about to pour the oil on the charred body, but the chief asks why does the director do this, and it's because the director says the Faluna Bible is without a doubt one of the most important books with knowledge that not everyone knows, and if it is revealed to everyone, it could be valuable to mankind. The chief refuses to let anyone know the truth of the book, and the director pours the oil on the burned body, as then it suddenly comes alive and attacks everyone. The monster apparently is after the Bible, and it goes for the old man, since it turns out the chief had the book on him his entire time. Pretty good hiding spot, all things considered. Using the old man as a distraction, he leads the beast outside, where the party can fight it, but their attacks don't seem to harm it. The chief then tells them to use fire, as it'll make the creature vulnerable. Now this explains why the chief set fire to the library, since in the beginning, the creature attacked them. Good explanation. I think that's pretty good. So Loretta conjures fire with one of her magic cards, and Cheyenne shoots the now vulnerable demon, defeating it. The Bible, however, is burned in the process, but the chief thinks it's for the better, as the truth may be harsh to some, and he will reveal it to the people he trusts the most. The masked woman from afar, alongside a few other cloaked men, comment as the engine of the Guardian factor seems imperfect, which is a type of vital factor, which was mentioned a bit in episode 2, but we'll get to that later. The woman, however, in the mask is amused the Bible's destroyed at least, saying that's all they really needed anyways. The party rejoices, and that's about it. Alrighty then, this was easily the most enjoyable episode so far, with a decent premise, funny moments from the old man, Maribel got to do something with her noble red powers, which was pretty cool, and yeah, we got to fight something again, since episode 2 had no action, and the action scenes in episode 1 and 3 were pretty short, but this one kind of makes up for that. Although the real thing I'm interested though is that masked woman. It sets her up as a threat and a villain, and I do enjoy this episode more than anything thus far, but don't take that the wrong way. It isn't as good as I make it sound. It's easily the most enjoyable episode so far, but it's merely average, and if this was episode 1, I'd be more forgiving, but it shouldn't take this long for an average episode. But hey, all's well that ends well, and average is still average, and I appreciate that. I mean, episodes 1, 2, and 3 were all average as well, but this is the first one I'd say that goes like a step above average. I still kind of expected a little bit more, not gonna lie. But hey, don't let that fool you. This is still a good episode, but I do think they could have increased the quality a little bit higher, but hey, maybe episode 5 does that. So let's move on to episode 5, right? I mean, that's the next episode. What, do you think I go to episode 6 or 7 first? Do you think I don't know how to count? Episode 5 starts off with a flashback of an artist painting some girl playing a flute. As she stops playing her flute, he goes away from his canvas as he walks up to her and holds her chin romantically. This is relevant later, just beyond this one. Anyways, Loretta, our fair magic card waifu, is attending a memorial service for the famous artist Rotess. Loretta claims she is an illegitimate child that gets the inheritance, which is obviously just a ruse to get the money. She even calls Maribel her attendant. Oh boy, this is not gonna end well. As they board the cruise, Maribel sees another woman which Loretta identifies as Michelle, another candidate for the granddaughter of Rotess. Here's the funny thing though, there really isn't any proof of who the person is who gets the inheritance, save for the unfinished painting of Rotess titled The Girl with the Flute, as well as a recording left by Mr. Rotess himself. Keel and Cheyenne are on the crew, and they don't have that much purpose in this episode, apart from showing Cheyenne gets seasick real easy. But wasn't he on a boat in the last episode? Oh well. Anyways, in the captain's room, the butler of Rotess, named Mr. Kojima, is upset that these people come now when none of them came when Rotess was still alive. Wait. His name is Mr. Kojima. You know what that means.
Snake, what's wrong? Snake! Snake!
The lawyer shares his sympathy, but tells Kojima to remain calm, as the recording and the painting will reveal all. The treasure gals meet up with the adventure dudes on the ship. Well, these lucky meetups keep happening. However, we ain't got time for the "we ran into you again" speech, as we see a couple of greedy men trying to weasel into Michelle's business. Oh great, we got simps here, and greedy simps at that. Loretta, using her sneaky treasure hunting tactics, approaches. Michelle introduces herself as another long-lost relative of Mr. Rotez. Michelle even gets a snarky line of Loretta being her aunt, which made me chuckle admittedly. Loretta asks if Michelle has any proof that she is the granddaughter, with her answer being, "When you see the girl with the flute, you'll understand." Loretta asks where the world this painting would be since it's been missing for years. However, Michelle says she knows it's on the ship, as the court was trying to identify whether or not it was the legit thing or not. And, admittedly, Loretta does get a witty comment back at Michelle by calling her princess, so the two trade blows. Meanwhile, Mr. Kojima...
Snake, respond! Snake! Snake!
And his lawyer prepare for the recording to be announced. As it's revealed, the painting girl with the flute, as I said before, was in the custody of the court to examine its authenticity. The gathering begins as Loretta has a few drinks with Maribel, reminding her not to get drunk for the reveal. Anyways, Mr. Kojima stands at the stage, with Kyo bringing in the painting as he takes off the cover revealing the incomplete painting, the girl with the flute. The audience, in surprise, notices the similarities between the painting and Michelle. Anyways, the recording announces the painting and inheritance go to the one Mr. Rotez loved with all his heart. Mr. Kojima!
Stop kidding around! Snake? Snake!
Yeah, the audience is surprised by this revelation too. Even Mr. Kojima himself is shocked. Michelle throws a complaint to the lawyer, with him trying to explain that the recording is all. But Michelle is having none of this as she stomps off, with Loretta giving the princess a hard time, saying she isn't the center of attention now. Admittedly a little mean from Loretta, but nah. In the middle of the night, however, Michelle goes to the painting with nobody around, with a knife in hand. Loretta is sneaking through the vents as she intends to steal the painting, but catches Michelle as she approaches the painting, knife in hand. The two ask what each other are doing as the scene cuts to Cheyenne, who decides he's had enough and will swim the rest of the way, since they have no reason to stay here. Keel is unsure of this, but Cheyenne hears something strange, which is a flute being played. The scene cuts to Mr. Kojima.
Snake, what's wrong? Snake! Snake!
As he sets the flute down in a case. Here is where major plot revelations happen, as Kojima is not happy with receiving the inheritance. He believes it's not what Rotez would have wanted, and it's not his place to take the inheritance. He thinks no one should have it, as a matter of fact, as he only wanted Rotez by his side. Kojima goes to the captain's room and he announces he will be joining Mr. Rotez, and the passengers should leave on the lifeboats if they don't want to die with him. So yes, he's going to literally suicide ship himself. Damn, dark concept. Michelle tries to push past the crowd to take the painting that everyone wants, the girl with the flute, and Maribel manages to convince Loretta to help her, as it's the only memento of her grandmother left. Shine heads up to the captain's room to try and stop the ship, as he's fed up with the seasickness. Kojima tells him to just leave and let him die by his own hand. Shine offers to kill Kojima instead.
Snake, what's wrong? Snake! Snake!
But Keel stops him, telling Kojima if he had the choice to kill himself, that's his, and his alone, but he shouldn't endanger the lives of others in doing so. Loretta then notices a butterfly pattern on his hand, which just so happens to match the butterfly pattern in the unfinished painting. And here is where my mind, admittedly, was completely blown. So, it's obvious that Michelle and Kojima are related. But how is Kojima related to Rotez? Well, Rotez and Kojima were lovers. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This story takes the gay route. And you know what? That's, again, another pretty good twist. The funny thing is that animes back then they don't usually like covering these topics, and they don't now even to some extent. I mean, Hunter x Hunter had to censor Gon and Killua's relationship, so it's kind of surprising they actually went all out here. I mean, like I said, animes are very stingy with how they go about these topics. I mean, Jakotsu from Inuyasha was originally going to be female, but they decided to make him a crossdresser as they believed it wasn't in Inuyasha's character to kill a human girl. Sailor Uranus and Neptune were lesbian in the Japanese Sailor Moon, but were not in the dub. And, I mean, like I said, Gon and Killua were intended to be gay, but the creator and the anime team, they didn't quite agree with on this one, since it wouldn't pass censors. So they made it more like a bros relationship. This completely threw my initial assumption of how this episode was going to go, because I didn't think they'd actually go this far. I mean, again, animes don't often have the nerve to do this. So this gives this episode a ton of points that, again, I can't give to a lot of their animes because they don't go this far. So credit where credit is due. I'm beating around the bush here, and I'll just say this directly. Best episode by far. Above average, good, no, not great. Because it does something that, again, not a lot of animes had the nerve to do. It genuinely fooled me. The scriptwriters pulled the rug right out from under us. And here's another thing to add to that notebook I mentioned earlier. Animes can go the gay route. I really hope you're writing this down. So yeah, we have a pretty good twist. I mean, I know I sound like I'm rambling, but I do genuinely mean that this legit fooled me. It's like, I just don't see animes have the nerve to go this far, and I am actually kind of getting invested in the anime now. Okay, don't get me wrong, beforehand, I was pretty into it, but nothing made me say, wow, that's pretty unique. Because everything else I've seen in this anime so far, I've seen something like, or something close enough to. This sets it apart from other animes, since it's willing to do something that, again, I have not seen a lot of other animes have the nerve to do. But anyways, Kojima softs up and begins to reconsider his actions. And if you thought the twist of the gay route being a pretty good twist, we have another pretty good twist right here, as a matter of fact. Yeah, two really good twists back to back. There was another thief on the boat. That's Sim from earlier. Yeah, now he has the party at gunpoint and manages to kill Kojima, which is pretty impactful for Michelle, since even though she didn't really like Kojima, he was still family to her. Anyways, Maribel thankfully bites into him, putting him to sleep, alongside dying with Kojima on the ship, who is far beyond saving. So, they get out of the ship, saving Michelle as she gets the painting and the flute back out. They make it to the lifeboats, and they sail to shore. Michelle plays a melody on the flute that her grandmother played, which amused the group as her musical talent hasn't really gone noticed. Not before a seasick Cheyenne takes another hit to the guts, though. And that's it for episode 5. As I said before, easily the best episode so far. It really separates it from not just the other episodes, but a lot of other animes in general. Okay, I've said it a lot, but I can't emphasize it enough. This is something I don't see in animes that much. I mean, I just am surprised this anime had the balls to do that. Anyways, the stakes were pretty good. I think when the ship was sinking, it really made you feel on edge, and there was some pretty dark stuff, like with Michelle taking a knife to kill herself in front of the painting. That's dark! But again, all the other characters are just kind of there. I mean, Cheyenne doesn't really get that much significance in this story, apart from being seasick, that is. Since Kiel and Cheyenne were working with the ship crew, he was on the stage. Maribel kind of was just there to bite into the simp at the end, and Loretta obviously had the most importance here, rivaling Michelle, but other than that, a lot of characters didn't get a lot of significance, but I can kind of get why in this case. Unlike episode 3, I can kind of get why. This was more meant to flesh out the characters of this particular episode, which is something the Desert Dragon fantasy kind of failed to do. So again, I'm going to let that one slide. But for now, though, the one thing I want to cover in these last few minutes, since I'm not going to be able to cover every episode in this one part, is Isaac and Jerusha. They try to reconcile on the boat earlier, which is a good moment, but I don't really think they're that strong characters. I'm kidding. I mean, mascot characters aren't that strong in most animes as is, if it's not a Pokemon-esque anime. But I feel like they could have done a little bit more with them. I mean, sure, mascot characters are usually just there to provide slapstick, but since Isaac and Jerusha can talk and they had a relationship or divorced, why not do something with that? I mean, again, it doesn't have to be that deeply went into, but it would be nice considering I do kind of feel for both of them. Anyways, we'll continue part 2 with episode 6. I'm Quint866. Have a good one.